Hello and welcome to this episode of Outbreak Gamers. I'm your host, David Anthony, aka WebDave, and I have a really cool guest with me today, Mr. Joanna Dark. Hello, sir. How you doing?
Hey, David, how you doing? I want to say first, thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for, kind of talking to Twitter and everything. And this is
Hmm.
really an honor. I've seen some of the interviews that you've had, and it really means a lot to kind of be able to sit here with you and kind of just talk. And I got to say, that intro was pretty fire. I was like,
Thanks,
okay.
man.
I was like McKenny McConaughey. I was just like, all right, let's get going.
Get you a little pumped up, huh? Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Hopefully, one of these days I'll get a real high end intro and outro. But for now, that's where we're at. So, but man, I'm real excited to talk to you today. In case you hadn't noticed, from talking in the green room beforehand, I was like, we better start this recording, or we're gonna talk about everything beforehand. So, but that's good because, like I said, it's great having you here. You have a really good reputation. Like I started this whole series on interviewing influencers because the pandemic is going on, and when I was first watching, I was like, started, I was at my desk at home, and I'm like, I gotta have something to listen to or something to do while I was working, and I started listening to some shows, the IGN stuff like that, but they
Sure.
were, I don't know, it just seemed kind of, to me, a lot of one-sided stuff, and that's not necessarily, I don't say what they viewpoints at all, but I wanted to hear from somebody more like me or something. And then I ended up running across like Dealer and the Xbox Two podcast, and like, oh, this guy's really cool. And then I stumbled across Boom's channel, Mr. Boomstick, and man, that's what's really. And in his outro, I loved it, and it was like I watched every episode, every head still, and I'm gonna watch one tonight too. So it's just kind of thing where it's like I really enjoyed it, and then from there, I got to see all these cool people they bring in, including myself, lucky me. But yeah, he had you on, and I was like, man, I like this guy's your perspective, and I've seen you on other shows as well too, and so I just kind of thought, well, this would be a good chance for people to get to know you because if anything, we're gonna have to we're at some point we're gonna talk about your gamer tag. How you got to be Mr. Joanna Dark. So that's a question we'll get to in a little bit. But I guess the first thing we want to start with is, so like, I guess, and what kind of jobs have you done in your career early on?
Oof.
I
Do we
know,
have
I
do we have
know.
enough do we have time? But no.
Yeah, I got a long list myself. I got
Yeah.
just the highlights of what you think might be
So
interesting or different.
I'll say this. I worked a lot in front facing retail and kind of that customer service industry. I started
Hmm.
off when I was I started at McDonald's at 14. That was my first job. My dad, he knew I used to love video games, all these cool things I used to purchase. So he said, "Hey, how about this? We're doing construction for a McDonald's, and I know the manager. Let's get you a job." So I started off there, um, and I did this job for over the summer, probably 2 summers. Um, Afterwards, I went when I finally got into, let's just kind of fast forward into high school.
Hmm.
I started working in a nursing home because I was always interested in medicine. I wanted to be a
Nice.
nurse. I wanted to be a nurse at first. So I was working at a nursing home after school, and of course, those hours were limited because of a student. So it was kind of part of the school, so you can only work X amount of hours. So I started working
Right.
there, and as that job and I was finally kind of going to graduate, I wanted to do something different. So I ended up going and applying for my first, I think it was the Gap,
There you
at the
go.
mall. And like the gamer that I am, I used to go to the GameStop downstairs from the Gap every day.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to know, wow, this is a cool job. Like, look at this. Like, you get to talk video games all day. I was like, how can I get this job? And I met this person named Adolfo, and he just randomly told me, hey, I just we started talking and became good friends. He says,
Hmm.
hey, how about you come and bring me one day your application? I thought he wasn't serious. Sometimes people say come, come
Right.
back, so I decided the Gap wasn't for me because I wasn't that much of an expert in the type of clothes that people wanted. So when I went downstairs for my interview to the Gap, I ended up helping a customer, and she was looking for a PS2 and what to buy her grandkids. And I started actually telling her what she can buy and accessorize with the PS2, along with a lot of the games that they need at the time. And right there, as I went to my interview, the store manager was like, "Hey, you're hired." And I was like, "But," she was like, "I just saw you help that person and take them through that journey, through that purchase experience, and I definitely want to have you on there." And
That's
from there,
awesome.
I that was my dream job. That was my first dream job.
Yeah.
Uh, GameStop through my teenage years. From afterwards, to kind of again fast forward real quick, I ended up my next job was at Starbucks, and this was before this was during 9/11. Unfortunately,
Mm.
I was working down two buildings across from the World Trade Center,
Wow.
and I was there the day the towers fell. Unfortunately, all I remember was I just heard a big crash. Everybody's coming out. I'm coming out of my job, and I'm just seeing this, and it's hectic. I walked home that day. It was a tragic day, of course.
Of
A
course.
lot of
Yeah.
lives lost. My dad was working down there. My dad used to work, had a construction company, so he used to work around there. We were kind of worried, and this, of course, phones like a horror movie. The phones weren't working because everybody was trying to
Right.
get their loved ones.
Yeah.
And I would say about a year and a half later, I decided to join the military.
Cool.
And it wasn't because of the 9/11 events, of course. It
Hmm.
was more that, it's not a fancy story. I saw this really cool Navy SEAL pen. I loved it, and I was like, let me send away from this pen. And instead of getting the Navy SEAL pen, I had a recruiter knock at my door. And I remember it was a United States, sailor, and said, "Hey, let me talk to you a second." I said, "Hey, do you have my Navy pen? My Navy SEAL pen?" He's like, no. So I said, "No, thank you." And I guess life happens, and I
Right.
started evaluating, and decided to join the United States Navy, and I pursued my passion as a hospital corpsman, which is a nurse in the
Yeah.
military. And I did that for 12 years. I did 4 tours in the Middle East. I joined the Marine. Yeah, I joined as a part of a Marine unit. So as
Hmm.
being part of a hospital corpsman, you get what's called dual citizenship, because the Marine Corps does not have a kind of a medical branch. So the
Right.
Navy is the one that provides medical. And I joined the Marines, and then after, of course, going through boot camp and everything, I went straight to my first deployment, and I did that for 12 years, and I loved it. I loved, helping people.
Hmm.
Medicine was something that I was passionate. I was in the process of becoming, going through pre med, and hopefully, I wanted to become a trauma surgeon at one point.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and through all that, though,
Yeah.
I was always, of course, the person that people came for gaming. I
Hmm.
was the person that drove in my car with all my systems, and digital wasn't big, so I had my car. Not Wasn't a
Nice.
lot of clothes, but I had all my consoles with me, from my 360 to my Sega Saturn,
Nice.
everything, you named it. Driving from New York City cross country to California.
Right.
And when I got out of the service, I worked in hospitals, still within the medical field. And then I decided to take the time off, personally, because I was a little bit kind of, um, I would say, a little bit worn down from kind of working those long hours. And I took a job at Apple. So I worked at the Apple retail stores in California.
Nice.
That was a awakening, because I've always been a PC user. So I taught myself, but I was enamored with the iPhone. That was one of the first devices that I can say that I dreamed about it. I remember my sister used to send me magazines, and my mom, and they used to send me these magazines. I think for Wired magazine. I think
Hmm.
it was Wired, and I used to just read about the iPhone, because I've always loved technology. I've been big on technology. And after Apple, somebody told me about a position that Microsoft was opening retail stores. So I went and I applied. And, I always tell the story of how, I know it may sound cliche, but it feels like everything just aligned for me. And I think working at Microsoft was meant to be,
Hmm.
because I really bombed that interview. And when I mean bomb, they kind of ask you a lot of those psychological questions, like, "Hey, if you were an animal, what would you be?" And I'm like, "Well, let me see. Out of all the animals, I want to be a bear." you know.
You didn't say puma? I'm just kidding.
No, I want to be a bear. I just want to eat honey, walk around, and just like invade campsites and just get whatever's eating there.
That's awesome.
But I got the phone call, and I was hired as a part-time worker for Microsoft Retails, and I worked for 11 years in Microsoft Retail, where
Wow.
I did every position. I started as a part-time sales associate. Then,
Hmm.
with my with my background and kind of just having knowledge of putting computers together, troubleshooting, always. I then became one of their ITs for their retail stores. So people used to come to the stores. They needed the computers or any type of solutions when it comes to
Hmm.
like their business or just to overall for consumers or families. I was there at their answers desk, like they used to call it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and in there, I was also a teacher, meaning each store had a actual person that taught the staff and everyone about the products, about solutions, about Office. I mean, literally, it's like having an actual like Grand Maester within the store.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So since then, like I said, afterwards, if we fast forward all the way to, I would say last year,
Hmm.
um, June in 2021 in June, that's when I applied to this position at Xbox, this new position that they were making for retail employees, and let's just say that it was. I feel very humbled and happy because it was. I've never seen so many applications going to Xbox, and of course, it was a very stressful process. I remember mock interviews for
Right.
weeks, and my sister-in-law and her husband, they grilled me. I felt like I was like I was actually on the stand being, interrogated. but but it was all worth the preparation, to get this position. And now again, I'm kind of coming up on it's going to be a year in June of this year,
Hmm.
working at Team Xbox, which is a dream because GameStop was my first kind of dream into gaming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And coming to Xbox, like I said before, I'm pretty sure a lot of people ask this question is, as a kid, I was never a developer. I'm terrible at coding. I took coding classes.
Same here.
So most of
Tried.
the time, when you look at when we thought about the gaming industry as kids,
Hmm.
oh, I have to know how to make a game. I know I have to code. I have to do all these skills that you know I don't have. So how can I make an impact in the gaming industry? And this was before we're seeing things right now like podcasting and journalism
Right.
before that. And you know, I used to be a big fan. I don't know if you ever got the opportunity to read a Game Fan. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that. Game Fan was like my window to Japan because they had a lot of cool stuff. And
Hmm.
I used to love, I signed up to everything: Game Pro, Game Fan, EGM, Sushi X was one of my favorite reviewers.
Nice.
Um, and that was kind of like my window into gaming. And in my mind, I always thought, well, hey, these guys are cool. They probably know how to do all these things. As a kid, you didn't know all these
Hmm.
things.
Right.
And it's nice to know that it's much more than just it's great that someone can be passionate about games, but there's so much more jobs within gaming that can be impactful, that you can definitely make a difference and actually be within the industry.
Yeah, yeah, right. And I tell you, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this series, because there's, it's not just, people have a channel, but there's people that have, you know, they can tell stories, or there's writing, or people that are designers, or people that just, you know, really good at playing, and it's just all these stories to me are really fascinating. First thing I got to say though is thank you for your service. Appreciate that.
You're
So,
welcome.
I just, it is important to call that out. So, and I do is greatly appreciated. Man, all those tours of duty, that's crazy, but I'm glad you were there. So that's awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
you're welcome.
awesome. All right. So let's, so your job now, if somebody was to say, say, like, so what does your job entail without, obviously, I just want to, I don't, well, I come into the office and I do paperwork. No, I just, the basic,
No.
how would I guess an Xbox customer success manager, what would your job entail? What would you need to do?
So my team consists of 10 individuals, and we work together to provide basically one-to-many support to all gamers.
Wow,
So
cool.
if you ever come to the site and you're looking at some of support articles, or you're on an Xbox flight because you're trying out some of the new um, things within the operating system on Xbox,
Hmm.
that is part of what I work with a bunch of other teams. So I work with a bunch of teams, even the Twitter support team, and our key thing is to provide support across all the different avenues of Xbox and making sure that all the pain points that gamers have, that we're making sure we're kind of eliminating those pain points and getting them to doing the one thing that people like doing the most, right? Which is game.
Right. Get them back to gaming, I guess. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. Well, I guess let's take this a little different direction. I'd like to talk to you about, I guess, what was your kind of your first experience with games at all, whether it be arcade or home system, or how did games start for you?
So it's funny because every time I kind of think about this question, I always go back to the Sega. But I guess the first system has to be the Atari 2600. My uncle at the time, when I was living with my grandmother when I first came to this country, he had an Atari. And I remember playing Star Wars and that terrible ET game that everyone talks about that almost crashed the
I've
market.
got that.
But it wasn't until this amazing company named Sega and the Master System was
Hmm.
that I truly was like hooked. I I used to, so when I came to this country, I lived in Manhattan, and then I moved over to Brooklyn, New York. So I was 7 at
Hmm.
the time, and I had a babysitter that just picked me up and dropped me off at my house. And then just one day, my mother was not going to be there on time, so I was going to stay at the babysitter's house. And it was that day that I stayed at their house. And I remember going in the living room, and I just see somebody at the, sitting on the, on the floor with this TV, and I'm just like, what is that? And I'm just staring there for about, I would say 20, 30 minutes, and they passed me the controller, and I'm like, okay. And lo and behold, it was Shinobi. And from that day, it was just like something hit me, like something just clicked, and I was like, wow, this is like amazing. I was used to these. I don't know if maybe a lot of people don't remember this, and some people that are really young may not. Those old school handhelds that had like the little card, but it was like a screen kind of just going down. They're not really digital at all. It's
Oh
just a
yeah,
card
I
moving.
had all that kind of stuff. I know what
That's
you're
all
talking
I.
about.
Yeah, that's all I knew. That's all I knew at that point. Besides the Atari, which didn't attract me, and I used to go to my babysitter's house every day until one day they decided to do something nice and they sold the Sega Master System to my dad for $60, which was still a lot
Yeah,
in
yeah,
I think it's like 1988 or 89. This was
yeah.
2 years after the system came out. So that was a lot of money at the time.
Right.
And I remember with that I played, I come from a poor family, so it wasn't like games at the time were cheap. But that's one of the things I laugh about because we debate, we have a lot of debates about $60, $70 games. Games were
Right.
expensive, especially in the 80s.
Hundred
And
bucks for a game.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I remember playing the games that I had that came with the system. I had it was Rocky. I remember Rocky. And
Hmm.
all I did all weekend was play Rocky. And I already had calluses on my thumbs and try to be Andrew Lang and then of course Ivan Drago.
Yep.
And it was tough because I think at the time with that game, if you lost at either Andrew Lang or Ivan Drago, you start from the beginning. So it was
Yep.
just like you talk about Dark Souls. That was the Dark Souls of boxing for me.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, and from there I played Spy First to Spy, and of course I played the Sega Master System until it went out of style because again that's all we had. So little by little I
Sure.
started getting the little cartridges, Alex Kidd, um,
Love that
and
game.
and I guess the next system that in my mind that I remember was the SNES. We got an SNES, and of course Super Mario, like many, changed
Yeah.
my life. I played that game just like my Sega to the point that I knew a lot of the shortcuts, like a lot of the speedrunners do. Duck Hunt, always shooting at the screen. And then I remember, so, GameStop, you buy, sell used games, right?
Oh yeah.
So in my building, I think we had the original concept of GameStop, right? There was this gentleman that lived on the other side of the building. And I had this game called, I wasted my money on this game. And I don't know if you ever played this game. It's called Bio Billy.
By you, Billy?
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I
It
owned
looks
it as
like
well.
Crocodile Hunt, Crocodile Dundee game.
Yep.
And I was like, this is the worst game I've ever played in my life. And I was sad because, mind you, I saved my money to just go buy this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I had this other game called Shadow of the Ninja. I don't know if you ever played that one.
Oh yes.
I
Love that
love
game.
that game.
Yes.
So I go to this guy's house and he is like, okay, here's what we can do. I can do a one for trade, but if I think your game is not that great, we can do 2 for 1. I said, okay, cool. So as I'm looking, he had a bunch of stuff, and I was like, all right. I used to be the type of player because again, there was no magazines still. I looked
Right.
at the cartridge cover just like I did at Bio Billy, and I
Hmm.
was like, okay, let me see. And it was this game there, and I picked it up, and it says Metal Gear. And I was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. This guy with a gun and like this mech. And here's where I gotta hustle this kid, right? And I literally said, okay, hey, look, I'm gonna walk away. I don't want to give this Bio Billy away. And he goes like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I just don't want because I'm gonna have to give you Bio Billy, and I don't think there's anything here." So I walk away. This person comes to me and says, "Hey, hey, hey, let's talk. I want that Bio Billy game, and I'll give you Metal Gear 1 for 1. You don't have to give me the Shadow of the Ninja. I didn't want to give away Shadow of the Ninja.
Right.
I gave, and he says to me, just remember, once we trade, you can't trade this back." I said, "Oh, okay, of course." I took Metal Gear, and of course, he came back to me a couple of days like, "I'm really angry. This game is terrible." I was like, "Hey, no trade backs, right?" But it was there that I fell in love with the Metal Gear franchise, which is to me one of my all time favorite franchises of all time. Like, if there was that only game I can play for the rest of my life, that would be the series that I want to
That would
play.
be it, huh? Yeah.
That's why I love Kojima so much. And people say, well, I just love what the man does. And Metal Gear was that game that kind of just like, wow, it was like a movie. And it just continued to just blow my mind as I played the other ones.
Oh, I'm right there with you, man. 100%. Kojima games are really good, really well done, and he has definitely got just a focus of what he wants to bring out in a game, and it's very entertaining. To Death Stranding is so out there, but it's cool.
It's an amazing game. I
It
love it.
is.
And I'll get to Death Stranding. We can get Stranding once we get to the PlayStation 4 era.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
But like everyone else, I think it was NES. Then I remember watching the commercial to Super Mario World, and it was the Super NES. And I remember I told my mom, I want that. So my mom was
Yeah.
like, well, we're gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to find somebody to purchase one of your consoles, and then we're gonna have to try to save up some money. And what happened was my sister's my sister's actual husband right now, which I knew as a kid, they came over to visit, and they lived in Mexico at the time. And they didn't have, I guess in Mexico at the time, maybe consoles weren't as accessible or things were expensive. I sold them the Sega Master System for an actual $100,
Wow.
and they paid it.
You made a profit.
So, I did. And with that, my mom put the rest, and we were able to get a Super Nintendo. And I would say the Super Nintendo era was, I ended up, of course, Super Mario World, playing that. And I used to be a big person that used to love the arcades, and I used to go out on the weekends and play Street Fighter. And I remember when Street Fighter came to console, I used to go to this store called Boom Variety in Brooklyn. That's where I got all. It was a mom and pop shop, and that was basically the person that I purchased all my consoles from, up to the, I think it was the Sega Saturn,
Yeah.
and it was always there. I knew I the guy knew me there from since I was a kid, and we bought the Super Nintendo, and I played games just like uh, was it Super Mario World, Doom, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, because that was another one that I used to love.
Oh
Maximum
yeah.
Carnage with Spider Man, and the many other amazing titles. And I think the one title that I would say from this decade, from this era, that kind of got me into what I like as well as JRPGs has to be Final Fantasy 3, which is 6. For some reason, Square doesn't give it a lot of love.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the game that kind of got me into the other genre, because at this point I was all about Mega Man, side scrollers.
Right,
Oh
right.
yeah, we can't forget about Mega Man. Mega Man was amazing. Did you ever get a
Definitely.
chance to play it?
Oh yeah, I've played many of the Mega
Yeah.
Man games, many of them.
Along with Super Metroid, Samus was another one of my favorite heroes. Um, Even getting that ending and was like, oh wow, Samus is this cool girl. I was like, awesome. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
that was like a twist. You were like, oh cool. I was
yeah.
like,
It's,
so uh, did you ever get to play RoboCop versus the Terminator as
I
well?
I played the RoboCop game, but I
Sure.
did not play the one where they were together. As far as the, I know what you're talking about, but I
Yeah.
remember seeing it, but I did not play the one where they were together. I played the Terminator game, especially the arcade one. Love
Okay. Oh yeah, that's a
that one.
classic. But RoboCop versus Terminator was incredible. It was two franchises that I love.
Oh yeah,
Um, come together as one, and it was just like this game. Just, I mean, when you look at it now, it's terrible. But as a kid, you were like, "Oh man, this is awesome! I'm taking on Skynet and all that.
yeah,
Let's go!"
yeah. This is the greatest game ever. Yeah, no,
Yes.
yeah, because it was great movies. Tie-ins were like the big thing, even if it wasn't the greatest game. The tie-in is what was, because you made, like, oh, because you remember the movie, even though you're playing something that doesn't look like the movie.
Yeah. Remember Batman Returns? They had not Batman. Yeah,
Yes,
Batman Returns. That was really good though.
yeah,
And
really,
the original Batman from Sunsoft on the NES, that
yes,
was
yeah,
another one. Yeah, so those are some classic games.
yeah, love those.
I think now, because I don't want to name every Super Nintendo game because
Yeah,
that
yeah,
would be forever. I would say the Sega Genesis, and it was like everyone. I always troll people, especially Everborn, about Sonic,
I've heard you do that a lot.
but I
Too funny.
Sonic.
Yeah,
Sonic was awesome. I was a big mascot person with Mario, and Sonic was just cool.
yeah.
And
Don't let him hear you say it was a positive thing about him. Just kidding.
no, I love Sonic.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And along with like games like Golden Axe, Altered Beast, Space Harrier, Fantasy Star, all
Oh
those
yeah.
iconic games that I got to play on the Genesis, I was just like, wow, this is awesome. And of course, they were doing something different from Nintendo at the time,
Hmm.
where they were catering. If you kind of look at it, you know, people can disagree, but kind of like what PlayStation was doing in the sense of like giving me these type of games with like mature themes and kind of
Hmm.
like maybe a little bit of cinematic into them.
Right.
That I kind of was like, okay, I can definitely get into this games. And the Genesis was the next system that I owned. And not to kind of dwell, I think everything Sega made I owned. I got a Sega CD from a friend.
Nice.
So Sewer Shark, Corpse Killer,
Yeah.
Prize Fighter. Did you ever play Prize Fighter?
Yes, some. My, so I guess the Saturn, or was it Sega? No, maybe it was the, well, it was the Sega CD, I guess.
Sega CD,
Uh,
yes.
yeah, the Night Trap. I love that game.
Yes, of course. Night Trap was
Yeah,
a
yeah,
classic.
yeah.
That was, I got Night Trap, of course. All these FMB. One of the funniest games that I played on the Sega CD reminded me of Mad Max, and it's called the Road Warrior.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it had one of the most awesome intros. It was kind of like that rock, and I was just like, it reminded me also of Fist of the North Star. And I just
yeah.
remember like, okay, I played through 12 levels just taking people out in this car. I was like living my Mad Max, fantasies.
Yeah. Run them over,
Yes.
plow them down, and gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome.
And Sonic CD was, to me, is one of the best Sonics
Yes.
made. And like I said, I used to buy all my stuff from this place called Boomerati. There was a guy named Charlie there, and I was the annoying kid that asked 1,000 questions, but I only bought one thing, right?
Right.
So Charlie tells me one day that if I go back and play Sonic CD and I get all the past and future like achievements, and with all the Emerald Chaos Emeralds, um, that I can play a demo of Sonic 2. So I go back and I spend an entire month,
Wow.
literally 100% down to like everything. And mind you, this is a time where there's no checkpoints. So if you mess up, you're starting from like the beginning.
Way back.
So I did it, and I found out he lied to me. And I was so mad because all we got at the end was I think Sonic and I think her name is Daisy. No, I'm thinking of
No.
Disney.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Disney, but
That's funny.
Rose. I think her name is Rose or something.
Mhm.
Sonic's girlfriend.
Right. Whatever her name is. I get you. I can't
Forgot
remember
her
either.
name. Oh, watch all the Sega fans will be like, "You're not a true Sega fan."
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so it was that, and I was just like, "Whoa!" That was the first time I said I don't want 100% games because that was a lot, especially with all
Oh
that stuff.
yeah, yeah. So what did he say when you confronted him with his
Oh,
ruse?
he just smiles like, "Yeah, I knew I was gonna keep you away from the store for a month." So,
Oh wow.
but
Oh
it was I understood. He
yeah.
was a nice person. He always got me all the stuff that I needed.
Right.
And you know, 32X was the next thing that I jumped into.
Yeah.
And the reason I bought the 32X is because I wanted Doom.
Yep.
So up to this point, even though Doom didn't take a lot to run, I never had a PC yet.
Right.
So or maybe I did. I'm trying to remember the 32X game, but anyway, the Doom. I got Doom, and I was like, I gotta play this. So I got Doom, and then there was this other fighting game called Eternal Champions, which I was a
Yes.
huge fan of. It was. I just wanted it because I wanted to do the kills that they showed you in the game, like
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
to there. That's all I wanted it for. It was a terrible game by any standards at the time as a fighter compared to what we had.
Right.
So I got the 32X. I got all these games that they had on there for the 32X. I was like, all right, cool. It wasn't that great. And then I think I went to there was after that, what? If we go in order, say I owned the Sega Saturn. And the Sega Saturn was one of my favorite. The Sega Saturn to me is like the Wii U.
Yeah.
It was an unfortunate console that had great games, just didn't catch on
Right.
as hardware. Uh, in there, Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is one of my favorite RPGs, Burning Rangers,
Daytona.
and Daytona USA,
Yep.
Virtual Cop, Dynamite. I literally every game. And what I did
Yeah.
is at the time, at the store, I went to Boom Variety. They used to do a lot of the back end stuff.
Hmm.
They actually sold me this RAM expansion card, and and modded my Saturn, and I was able to get imports. And you can
Nice.
only play Marvel versus Capcom, like the actual full version of it, with this RAM card in the back in the
Wow.
slot. So I said yes. I think at that time, I think I spent over $100 just getting the RAM pack and getting, I think Marvel was $90 to
Yeah.
import. But I wanted to play a one-to-one copy of the actual arcade at home with the Sega Saturn. Um, and then what? After Sega Saturn, I did own an N64, and I was always a Nintendo and Sega fan.
Right. Right.
Uh, yeah, Mario 64 changed everyone's world, just like me.
Well, you were talking about getting the import boost in your last system. If you remember when the 64 came out, it came out in Japan a year before it came out in the US.
Correct.
I bought mine a month after it came out in Japan from an importer. I won't tell you how much money I paid for that thing. But
So funny thing you say.
just that and the Mario 64 game was the only game I had for a while. Go ahead.
I had a friend who was older than me by
Yeah.
a couple of years, and we connected through gaming. And I used to go to his house because of course, he had a job and everything, and he spent all that money. Uh, and I was there for hours, just like his mom at one point was like, "We might as well adopt you."
Yeah,
The amount of
exactly.
times I spent there. But yes, the N64 was amazing. Wayne
Yes.
Gretzky hockey,
Oh,
Blast Corps, GoldenEye, Turok, you name it, all the
yeah.
games. And to kind of give a little context to my name, Perfect Dark
Yes.
was one of my favorite games. And it was a game that the reason I like it is because I love the world within Perfect Dark. I like
Oh
Joanna
yeah.
Dark. Elvis was awesome as your sidekick. And most importantly, it was a game that my mom at the time, like every parent that makes sacrifices, decided to, instead of buying herself something, she promised me that she was going to get me this game, and
Wow.
she went to get me this game. So when she got this game for me, I was like, I don't, even if it's terrible, I'm going to cherish this game because my mom made a sacrifice to make me happy, right? Like every parent.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
Uh, And I did kind of, you were talking about thing. I remember the way you kind of modded the N64, where you kind of like you had to get like a knife and kind of
Mm-hmm.
get it hot, and I did that
Nice.
because I needed to play Mario Kart and Star Fox before it came over to the States. I just had to.
Yeah,
And I just remember bringing my friends over. I was like, "How do you got this? Don't worry about it." And we would just
yeah. Yeah.
sit there playing. And I was like, I don't even know, I mean, even though the menus were in Japanese, the most of the voiceover was in English.
Right. Yep.
Um, and I remember getting the RAM pack, if you remember that as well.
Yep.
And I was also a proud owner, even though people look at me weird, of the N64 HDD drive.
Wow, that is awesome. That is rare. Very
Yes.
cool.
I like a lot of these niche.
Mm-hmm.
They never think. I know we skipped a lot of stuff, but I did own a Sega Nomad, the first Switch.
You
Um,
loved mine. I ended up buying one
oh,
later and then sold it again. Crazy. Loved it.
half of my backpack going to work,
Mm-hmm.
going to GameStop was uh, a box of batteries and me playing one game of NHL or NBA live at the time, and it was just
Yep.
like cool. It was enough time, and then by the time I got home, I was like, I need more batteries. My mom was like, "How much batteries do you need?" I was, "You don't understand." I was like,
Yeah, you don't get it. It's real important that I have power to keep playing. Yep.
"Did you ever own an Atari Lynx?"
Links? Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I thought that
Love it.
console I'm sorry, underappreciated and
Right.
such a phenomenal Splatterhouse playing the first Street Fighter, which was called Fighting Street. For many
I'm
people
right
didn't know
there with
that.
you. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, because like I don't know if you're gonna be getting one of these the Steam Deck when it comes
Oh,
out. Yeah, right there. Me, my son, my daughter, we all got ours reserved. We were pounding
were
away
you
all
part of the
day to
first?
get.
Were you
Yes.
part of the first? Oh, so
Yeah. Yeah.
congrats! You're
Thank
getting
you.
it this
Thank you.
week. You're
Yeah.
getting
Well,
we're getting it this week.
and that's awesome. That's awesome. And but man, that's my son. He's very talented at the emulation, we'll just say. So
Oh,
he is gonna fix me up with
have you
all that stuff.
seen the One X player?
No, I guess
So
not.
it's before the Steam Deck. The One X
Yeah.
player is similar. They're PCs,
Oh,
and they
okay, I
and
got you.
literally like Steam Deck. Yeah, I have devices here that basically play some of the things that I don't have anymore with some consoles that I lost, unfortunately. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I wish I always buy my stuff. So even now, I have the Switch online pack, even though I can still go play on my N64.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I want to show Nintendo that hey, you can take my money as long as you keep bringing these games.
Yeah,
And
keep
I
doing
just
it. You're doing good. Yep.
I want to have all the games accessible to me as many places as possible, which is the key thing.
Yep.
Yeah, Atari Lynx was awesome. Sega Nomad, Sega Game Gear. I had all those weird
Awesome.
handhelds
They're
there.
great though. I love them.
You know, I can say that when I go to my next console, I was part of this. I was part of this fake war that maybe you and I know about. This console war.
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
a soldier that I was fighting this fictional fight because I
Fighting a
used
good
to
fight.
because I saw these commercials that Sega said Genesis does what Nintendo can't. So I was part of that, right?
Yeah.
When my friends were like, "Oh, but Genesis, nope, Nintendo's this." So
Yep.
I refuse to get a PS1 because
Wow.
I was so adamant of Nintendo because I love Nintendo.
Right.
Uh, and I remember when I saw the N64, I was excited because I saw Final Fantasy, and then I saw that Kojima was making Metal Gear Solid originally through GameFan on the N64. So I was like, I'm set. I got Final Fantasy coming, and I got Metal Gear. Lo and behold, CDs took over, and Kojima was like, "Nope, I'm going over there." And I was just like, "Okay." And it wasn't until I went to my friend's house, who's now my brother-in-law, and I saw this Resident Evil game,
Yep.
and I was like, "What? What is this?" And I went to his house. I saw him play it, and I came home. And my dad always knew how I was when I wanted something. I start kind of like, I start with a story, and then from there, I kind of work. I could have been a
Yeah.
politician,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 And he says, "Okay, this so how are we gonna buy it?" I was like, "Well, I don't know." He's like, "What do you know?" And what I remember that year, it was time to unfortunately let the Super NES go. And I sold the Super NES along with some of the Genesis stuff that I had, which later on I would, of course, acquire back.
Right.
And
Still hurts though, doesn't
it did, it
it?
did.
Yep.
But I saw Resident Evil, and when I heard, and then this was this other game, right? I went to back to Boomerariety, and all of a sudden I go there and I see this is a year. So this is, mind you, when I went to my play to my friend's house, excuse me.
Mhm.
Prior to that, this was he had the PlayStation ahead of time.
Mm.
So he bought later on, of course, Resident Evil because he only could play Japanese games. And I remember seeing Parasite Eve.
Mhm.
So when I saw Parasite Eve and I saw those graphics, I was like, what is this? Like, this is like, there's nothing on Nintendo 64 like this. So I not only purchased the PlayStation, I got the PlayStation modded.
Nice.
And I played Parasite Eve in Japanese the entire game. I went to my local library and I printed out from GameFAQs the entire script, the game that somebody wrote.
Very cool.
And I literally read through the script and I got to one part, which is the funniest part, where they speak in English. One part. This cop from
Mhm.
New York, when Aya gets to Times Square, I think. And the cop says, "Hey, oh, hey, you're Japanese." And then I was like, "Oh my god, this game turned into English?" Nope, it went back to Japanese. It just and I love Parasite Eve. And from there, I became a PlayStation, fan of their games. Batterina Toshinden, Ridge Racer,
Yep.
Suikoden, and of course, you know, people again. Sometimes we criticize each other, but I paid $15 for the Metal Gear Solid demo.
Wow.
$15. I went to the store
Yep.
and they were selling the demo, and I said, and I played that demo. I think to the point that there was no other place I can go in that demo. Like I literally every nick and cranny, and I was obsessed because I love Metal Gear.
Oh yeah.
And the PS1 had some amazing titles that people don't really talk about sometimes and forgotten because of the games. They were very different. Not all of them were great, but
Right.
they were inventive. And I love you were seeing how people were trying to give you these new experiences. I'm not sure if are you into role playing games?
Oh yeah. All kinds. Yes.
Did you ever play Vandal Hearts?
I did not play that one. I never
Vandal
played.
Har- Vandal Hearts to me was kind of Final Fantasy Tactics before we got Final Fantasy Tactics.
Okay.
Amazing story, and unfortunately, Konami made some future ones that just weren't, as
Right.
memorable. Suikoden to me is still one of the most memorable ones, and it's to me if you like Game of Thrones, that's the Game of Thrones RPG JRPG for you.
Nice.
I say
Yeah. Yeah.
so. Sim, we PS1, we got N64.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, PS2.
Hmm.
PS2, of course. I didn't buy the PS2 right away. I of course I was working at GameStop, and I remember there was a shortage. There was a shortage of consoles because of how popular it was.
Yeah.
And what I ended up doing one day is the store finally got a shipment, and it was my day off. So I literally came in and I waited for by the other manager to open the store. And I got myself Smuggler's Run and Summoner and all those games. And the PS2 was awesome. It had
I
some great
loved
games.
Summoner, especially the little hack you could do.
Yeah. Did you ever play a game Psyops? Psyops. It was
Yes.
a.
Yes.
I love that game. It was like shooter. You control powers. I think Midway used to make all these great games. Unfortunately,
Oh
rest in
yeah.
peace,
Yeah.
Midway.
Yeah.
Uh, Area 51.
Hmm.
So I was into those things. But I think where the PS4, PlayStation, I have to say my first PC gaming, and I know I'm jumping around because I feel like
No,
I'm,
it's all
the
right.
times things. My first game to get me into PC gaming was Half-Life.
Oh yeah.
I saw Half-Life and I forgot about it. And then I was in Connecticut and I went to a store. I think it was a Staples. And I see the box and I was like, wait. And mind you, this is the time I didn't know anything about PCs. So, like
Right.
many consumers nowadays, they just think, hey, I'm going to take this PC game and put it into my machine and it's going to work. And it just goes to bits, right? So I
Right.
remember loading Half-Life and I'm just like, is why is this game so slow? Like literally, I mean, I didn't know how many frames, but I can tell you it was like a kaleidoscope or like it was like picture, like a PowerPoint, put it that way.
Right, right.
Uh, so it wasn't until we purchased a Pentium, I think it was a Pentium 2. Yes, a Pentium 2.
Yeah.
And I started reading and I started getting my first Voodoo card. If you remember those.
Oh yes.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, and Half-Life, it was revolutionary for first person shooters
Oh
when it comes
yes.
to story. And from there, I kind of jumped into a lot of niche titles like Rainbow Six. What I used to do, and it was funny because I was into Asante about his Mortal Kombat, burning.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got into the business of making, again, this. I was a poor kid from Brooklyn, didn't
Right.
have ways of, we didn't have Game Pass, right, which I love.
I love Game Pass.
And
Right there with you.
so what I used to do, and this was before I even worked, I used to go and I used to do two things. I used to spend an entire week downloading games through AOL in the forums where they used to give you the games. Like you used to go there. Oh, let me get
Yeah.
all these zip files. Cool. Spend an entire week getting a zip file just to play one game.
Right.
And then, you know, I went and got a nice CD burner, got some CDs. I had a local store that sold them cheap, and I got the CDs and I used to bring in and I used to go and return them at different EB games. So I purchased them on my dad's credit card,
Well,
burned them, and then I used to either take my grandmother, my uncle to return them. And then one day, one of the guys was like, "Hey, I've seen you a couple of times here, never went back." And but I used
oops.
to look because I used to want all these games because I was like, "Hey, these games are cool." Uh, so that was kind of like my foray into kind of dipping my toes into PC and kind of playing some of those games like EverQuest.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then PS2, like I said, back to the PS2. I played a lot of the games. GTA 3 was, of course, one of the main games that was just like, wow.
It's a
I'm
great
I'm
game.
I'm I'm running around here in the streets, doing all these crazy things.
Yep.
And and then let's see, we had what, PS2, we had the Xbox, right?
Yep.
So here's how this story went with the Xbox. So,
Okay.
same thing with the N64. I was this Sony warrior. Like you can't take nothing away from me. It's my PS2, everything. So there was this guy named Ernesto, and he was really big into Microsoft. And he goes to me, "Hey man, I really feel that this console is just gonna hit." And I was just like, I, I remember the day that the kiosk came in. It was this huge box. We're setting it up, and I was like, Ernesto, ain't no way that this humongous mainframe of a machine here is gonna take on the PS2 Nintendo. No way. So it's sitting there. Halo's playing with the chorus and everything. I'm like, whatever. One day, my brother-in-law, who wasn't at the time, was like, "Hey man, you need to try this Halo." And I was like, I don't see what's cool about it. So I take a break. I took a break. And what I did is I came early to the store and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna take early." And I came early. And I walk in and I go to the kiosk and I
Hmm.
start playing. And literally just like that moment that I had with Resident Evil, I can't stop thinking about Halo. So what did I do? I picked up my N64. I kept the big games, like I kept
Right.
GoldenEye, Turok, those big titles.
Right.
And I sold everything on the N64 side, and I even threw in some PS2 games that I didn't have. And I
Right.
went home with Halo, and all I did was play Halo like for months. Even when I
Yep.
found out that you can do LAN parties, we were going to my friend Rick's house, and we were like,
Yep.
literally, it was just Halo, and I was just like, wow, this console is incredible. And then when Knights of the Old Republic came out, I never experienced. I mean, I'm not a hardcore Star Wars fan,
Right.
but but I do like, Star Wars. And some of the things I was doing in that video game at the time, I
Hmm.
couldn't believe it. I loved Otagi, which was another one. I don't know if you remember that one.
Hmm.
Myth of Demons, which is backwards compatible now. Full Spectrum Warrior, because it was like a real military simulator, which I
Love
loved.
that game. Love it. Got that
Yeah.
downloaded on my system right now.
Uh, and I don't know if you remember this other, but it was basically Resident Evil on a boat, and it was called Cold Fear.
I do remember, but I don't know if I ever played it, but I do remember it.
S- Yeah, so Cold Fear was there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just like all those Stub the Zombies, all these games that came out on Xbox, and I even said it. Hey, I feel like Xbox has this momentum. And then of course came the
Mm-hmm.
360. And funny thing about the 360, I came back from my first deployment. I had to get surgery. I hurt myself.
Mm,
I remember going to pick up my 360. I got Gun and some other launch games and everything.
right.
And I was so out of it because I came out of surgery. My friend took me to the GameStop. And I remember just waking up and I'm like, what is this system in front of me? And I actually went to purchase an HD TV at the time that were a Westinghouse, which was super expensive.
That's so funny.
Uh,
I had one
and
of those too.
well, at the time,
Yeah.
because my uncle was all into Consumer Reports. So I
Mm-hmm.
called my uncle and say, hey, can you look up this in Consumer Reports? And my uncle pulls out his magazine. He's like, yes, this machine, go get this specific one. So I go to the NEX on the base and I go get myself that HD TV. And from there it was just like the 360 was amazing. Bioshock, Gears of War, Elder Scrolls, Dead Rising was the reason I actually bought the 360 because I love zombies. And
Yeah.
when I saw Frank West on top of a van and reliving my Night of the Living Dead moments or like Dawn of the Dead, I was like, I'm in.
Yes.
Uh, and that console, Bioshock, as a PC fan, System Shock is one of my favorite games, and not many people know that Bioshock is a spiritual successor because
Right.
um, Looking Glass went down unfortunately, and Ken Levine came over, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how they started the whole thing. And Bioshock was amazing, so the 360 was just incredible. And at that point, I think we saw the PS3, and this was a funny story about the PS3.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was coming back, we were deployed, and usually what we used to go is we used to go to Kuwait, and Kuwait was kind of already a base. It was established, and many service members that were leaving home usually stay there. So I started working since at the time I was just in transit. I
Mm-hmm.
started working with the shipments that used to come in to unload for the store for members to purchase whatever they wanted that are going to be on the base.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the guy was like, "Hey, look, if you help me tonight, it was really late. Get all this. I'm going to raffle something, and either one of you is going to win a PS3 or a Wii." I said, "Okay, sure." So it so happened that I talked to my mom, and she was like, "Hey, I got a Wii for you." Okay, cool. So when I ended up winning the Wii, my other friend was like, "Hey, I don't want this PlayStation. Do you want to trade?" I was like, "Sure."
Yeah.
So I got the PS3.
Funny.
I already knew I had the Wii already.
Yeah.
And I was excited because it was a high price. I wasn't gonna buy the PS3 because of the high price, not because I didn't want it.
Right. Right.
And then when I was able to play Resistance, Fall of Man, Infamous, which is one of my favorite games, and just to kind
Same
of tell you how
here.
much I love it, I actually have a tattoo on this of Cole, but I
That's
modified
awesome.
it. I modified it because I have it. He also has like dog tags and a medical bag.
Very cool.
It took 4 hours of pain, but I got it done
Yeah.
with 11 colors on it. So it's really nice. And then, of course, the PS3 gave us Last of Us, which to me is one of the best games ever made in that generation. It still is.
It's
From a
amazing.
from a gaming and cinematic standpoint, themes and overall. And they gave us all these amazing games on the PS3. And I always, like I said, I've always, to kind of wrap things up, is
It's
I've
cool.
always liked gaming.
Yeah.
I did have as a kid, as a kid of 7 years old, 12 years old,
Mm-hmm.
I had my fanboy moments, but I've always been a person that I chase where the games are because I love video games in general.
Right.
Um, I'm not tied to a box, but Xbox became my platform. And the reason I tell people Xbox became my platform is because, with like when we see with a kind of lot of, brands, you feel that you associate yourself with a brand because of how the community makes you feel.
Right.
And I'm not trying to say that no community within PlayStation and Nintendo are not great, because there's some great communities out there. But it
Definitely.
was of course the Xbox that I just felt it brought me what Nintendo did, but in a more higher level. I had the online thing to play Duke Nukem on the, I think it was the Sega Saturn, that had like a
Oh,
network play.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. I remember
All I wanted to play was Virtual On and Duke Nukem 3D.
that.
So it just, for the type of person that I am, and it just felt that that community has always been something that I felt that was a part of me, and I love the games that were there. And the reason Xbox always resonated with me because I also love PC games, and it was Xbox that introduced me to a lot of the niche PC titles that kind of came over to the console side
Right.
of things. And it's always been like that, and I love a lot of, as being a Windows user and also seeing the vision of what I love about Windows, the Xbox with backwards compatibility, with cloud saves, with all how everything is working even now.
Yeah.
It that vision is what I like. That intricacy of being able to go through everything. So I guess to kind of wrap up the whole thing about the game systems, the
Yeah.
PS4. I got the Xbox One, and this was when I was working at Microsoft. I was part of the launch, and I always tell the story about that. It was a different time, and I come from a perspective as a gamer at the time, and also a person that worked at Microsoft retail, and
Right.
was enthusiastic. And I remember dressing up at Master Chief and being excited. And I think the Xbox One doesn't get a lot of credit, but it had some great games.
Oh, yes.
It's unfortunate that it didn't get a lot of the titles that we got to the extent of the 360, but we definitely had,
Uh,
Halo. We had all these great games that came in there. Rise, Son of Rome, Halo 4,
oh,
all these
yeah.
kind of games. Um,
I like the
and
Connect. I'll admit it.
oh, Dance Central. Hey,
Yeah.
I used to do Skype. I used to Skype my parents,
There
or
you go.
and it was a nice, really, detailed camera
Oh,
that you
dude,
were there.
yes.
And I was lazy. I used to Xbox pause and stuff like that. Hopefully, I didn't pause somebody's Xbox. Still using the Connect,
Duh.
and and
It's
I used to
funny.
play Dance Central, and I used
Mhm.
to like this one other game called Dark Streams Don't Die D4.
Hmm. I heard of that one.
It's a very Japanese. Think of, you ever play No More Heroes?
Yes. Yeah.
So think of Suda type style. I think Suda might have
Oh,
worked. I
okay.
can't remember, but it was really cool. You got to do some of the stuff, and I think the other one was called. I think it was the one where you were a puppet on a stage. I think it was made by Double Fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was another great game. I thought the Connect was great.
Me
I
too.
loved it. Of course, they didn't utilize it with a lot of things. Unfortunately, the Star Wars one was cool for a second too, where you were using the lightsaber and use the Force power.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There was some cool experiences. And the PS4, I got my PS4. I got my Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah.
I got to experience, JRPGs, Persona, and that's the reason I like Sony's exclusives. I like the JRPGs.
Yeah.
Uh, and then we fast forward, and Xbox Series console and PS5, and I think it's a great time for gaming in general.
It is. It really is. You're right on the money there. Um, on the PlayStation 4, and because we talked about Kojima, um, downloading PT, playing that, the demo,
Yes, yes,
dude, that was amazing. And I had it download, of course. Then eventually it was like, you can never re-download this. What? Kind of thing.
yes.
All that fallout and stuff that they had. When I eventually
I still have a PS4
did just
with that
have it
game.
on it, fantastic. I had mine and I traded it in, and I was like, when I took it in there, I was like, well, I've cleaned everything off of it, but I haven't reformatted it. And this was GameStop, and knew the manager, and I was like, you know, just to let you know, this does still have PT on it. And he's like, it does. I was like, yeah. He goes, well, I think I'm gonna buy that, and if you say you got everything cleaned off, I don't think I'm gonna worry about formatting this one. So he bought it, took it home, and I was like, dude, I don't blame you. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, it was PT was great. I remember spending, and I think we put, Metal Gear Solid 3. I purchased the
Yes.
special edition that came
Cool.
with a Walkman. So
Cool.
I have a Walkman with Solid Snake used in Snake
That's
Eater.
so awesome.
And yeah, no, it's there's so many great things. PT was one of those things. Metal Gear Solid 4, um, another great game. And yeah, you have those games that you just want. Like one of the things I never got was the God of War console,
Mm-hmm.
but I love that. But I do have the God of War statue because God of War
Very
is
cool. Yes.
incredible.
Amazing, amazing game, amazing franchise. I'm right there with you. Um, Dude, I've enjoyed talking games with you, man, and going through your life because I'm like sitting there going, I played that, I played that, I played that. Ooh, I haven't
Yeah.
played that. So
And
I'm
sorry if
right
I
there
took
with you.
too long.
No, not at all.
I was like, oh my god. I was like, let me go
Oh,
ahead.
this is what it's about, man. This is what we're getting into, man. Talking about the games and and the way they've affected you and to where you are now, because the job that you do, the role that you play with Microsoft is because you had a love for gaming, or you probably wouldn't have been in there. To be
Yeah,
honest, right?
I mean, yeah, that's the one thing, I think we were talking offline and we didn't know we were I don't code or anything like that. So I was
Right.
always this kid dreaming, living through magazines. I watched amazing people when I used to listen to like IGN, back in the day with Colin and
Hmm.
Greg Miller. I had the
Oh
opportunity
yeah.
to meet Greg Miller, which is one of the people that I've
Nice.
always, kind of, it's I wanted to be a Greg Miller, right?
Right.
And I've always kind of just said, wow, these people are doing something that I guess because of the times and when we were born, our parents sometimes pushed us. I was like I said before, I came from a poor family, right?
Right.
So to my parents, like many, it was either, hey, go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go be something that will eventually be profitable. Not
Right.
knowing at the time that video games is going to be such a big industry like we are now.
Oh, aren't they though?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think in general this is to me as like I'm happy to be alive because this is like the golden age of games. Like it's not only just from the amazing titles we have, but how much more accessible as a kid. We had a Blockbuster. I used to go to the stores and rent games. I used to hide the games in the back of movies, R-rated movies, so I can come
Right.
back and rent it.
Right.
So, with things like Game Pass where people can come in, you don't have to buy a box, you can play or vice versa. PS Now is you to some people it may not be a viable solution, but to
Right.
other people it's a gateway to be able to enjoy something like Sony's titles or a Nintendo Switch. Introducing your kids, like my daughter loves Nintendo. Why? Because I introduced her to the Switch, Kirby, and all
Yep.
those amazing characters, and it's just a great time. And sometimes when I look at things online, it's I don't think we have to have like, oh, you this and that, kind of like a flame war, like we used to call them, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
You can like what you like, but also don't deter yourself, kind of like when you want to watch movies. We don't care about if it's on like a Sony TV or a Toshiba, whatever. Toshiba doesn't make TVs, but you know what I mean.
Right. Right.
Samsung. I just
Yep.
say, hey, David, go to Netflix, go to whatever. And you're like, oh, wow,
Right.
this movie was great. And I hope that we get to that. And again, I'm not saying everyone, but I hope that that's what I want, where you just can tell somebody, hey, where's that at? Oh, it's over here. Cool. Let me go play it. And let's have a conversation about, you know, why this is
Yep.
such a great game or, why we liked it and everything. So,
Yeah. I'm right there with you, man. I've got a PlayStation 5. I've got the Series X. I've got a Switch, actually the OLED. I upgraded to that. Even bought a portable
oh,
one,
yeah,
traded
I
in
got
later.
this. I got the
So,
SWOLED. Yes, I do.
so,
Um,
we're gamers. We love playing. Yeah, this is my hobby. This is what I like to do, and I'm not. I got a lot of movie posters. My daughter works for a movie theater, so I love movies. But that's but gaming is that's always been my hobby. I absolutely love it. Absolutely. I tell you one thing. I've talked about it before, but the um I guess like when the systems were coming out, and I mean, I have a good job, but still, money's money. You can't just blow it all on game consoles. I came to my wife and I said, she was cool with me getting a system, because of their $500 price tag, right?
yes, of
So
course.
I approached her with this. I said, well, I can buy a PlayStation 5 day it comes out, um, and then Microsoft has this really cool program called All Access. And
Yes.
and I talked to her, explained it to her at the moment. She's like, okay. It's like, yes. And it was like 2 days after the launch of the system, I got mine in the mail. But man, and I knew what Game Pass was, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool, but I didn't really care about it. But it came with Game Pass, and now it's like I cannot live without Game Pass. That is to me amazing thing that
Y-
they
y-
did, and
you
it's
know,
great.
I
But
was watching a review for Linus, I think Linus Tech,
oh, okay,
and they were doing the Steam Deck, and you kind of just hit on the point, right?
yeah,
He was saying, "Oh, what's great about if you want a Steam Deck is that you have games the minute you turn on that system, because if you purchased on Steam before, that's your titles. Same thing with Xbox, right? Game Pass, you're buying the system through all access or however you want to buy it, right?
hmm,
And Game Pass is kind of like your library. We used to kind of buying consoles and say, well, my budget is the console, whatever warranty, extra controllers, depending how you're going to play, right? And
right,
then what two games or one game do I have to make a sacrifice and say I'm going to buy first and then the other ones? That is all taken away, and it's just great that we can live in a place where you can subsidize the price to a console, because again, they're investments.
yes,
um and we love them, and sometimes it's not everyone, like you said before, whether we're fortunate enough that we're able to afford these consoles,
right,
that someone unfortunately can't buy an Xbox or can't buy a PlayStation, so they have to make that choice. So
yep,
it's good, and I love it. I hope we get some more of these type of Game Pass stuff on other places, because my
yes,
subscription online for Nintendo, they got me with Mario RPG. I was like, you got me.
same
I
here,
was like,
man.
Paper Mario. I was like, I
Yep,
went on that. I was just like, oh man, Nintendo,
yeah,
you always catch me.
and I do the family plan, which is nice because you can have up to 7 accounts on the family plan.
Yeah,
So like
I
I
mean,
got all my whole family
yep.
and like my son's friend, my daughter's friend. Yeah. So, it's like cool. I'm paying for it, so why not, So,
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and like it's great. Game Pass, you have so many games every month, and what I like about it is that I like playing a lot of niche titles.
hmm,
And it's great that you can just go in there, kind of like Netflix, and just you find something, you're like, wow, I probably would never have maybe purchased a game because I wouldn't even know about it.
yeah.
And now I'm playing, I think one of the games that I played this past summer was called, I don't know if you tried it, The Forgotten City.
Mm, yes. Yes.
Oh, fantastic
It
game.
is. It is.
I was just like, wow, what is this? Or, my friend Albert, he recommended The Lake, and it's like an 80s sitcom telltale style game.
Yeah.
Some amazing titles on there, and just keep going over and over. It's just like, wow. And this week, alone, Elden Ring. Keep
Yeah.
us busy. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, like, to me, it was 12 minutes. I was really fascinated by the trailer and the
Sure.
cast. I thought this is really cool. But I thought, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, I don't really have the money to spend on that because I'm getting other things. But then it was like, it's coming to Game Pass. Oh yeah, I've played it like through 3 times,
Oh,
and
so you like 12 minutes.
I
You want
do,
to
I do.
Okay, okay.
Not
I
everybody
like
does,
it.
but
I
I
like it,
do.
but toward the end, I was like, I'm just there. And the reason
Yeah,
I want to say this, because Forgotten City is like 12 minutes. But the
yeah,
thing
yeah,
about the Forgotten City is that it respects and lets you know to an extent where you've gone, versus 12 minutes. You're like, oh, but
yep.
yes, it was
Surprise.
yeah.
Yep.
12 minutes was cool. Did you play the Ascent? Did you get to play the Ascent as
I
well?
have I've downloaded it but I have not played it, which is
It's really
also
good.
my there's what was it? I got a friend of
The
mine. Go ahead.
the Medium as well is another great game.
Yes, yes, I played that one. I played through that. I like that one too. I got a friend that he was hesitant about Game Pass, but I knew him and his wife. They were regular customers when I was a manager a long time ago, and we've remained friends. And I knew they had like a year subscription to the Xbox Gold. So for Christmas this year, I got him and his wife a 1 month digital of Game Pass. And I
Sure.
sent him the code, and he's like, "Well, I got this." I said, it's not going to affect your gold at all. Just put this code in and enjoy these games." And he did, and he like 20 minutes later, messaged back. He goes, "It turned my whole account into a year-long subscription to Game Pass." I said,
Oh
"Yeah, and it's paid
wow.
for, and you don't have to. It doesn't cost you anything else." And he's like, "Did you know how to do that?" And I said, "That's what it did to me because I had like 6 months of Game Pass when of gold,
So it did
and
the
it
conversion.
converted. Yeah, it automatically converts it up just
That's
because
awesome.
they just think, well, it's fair. Well, you've already paid this. Let's just." So yeah, so I was like, oh,
And and you
but go ahead.
you know what's another MS Rewards? I don't know if you use MS Rewards,
Yes, yes,
but I love MS Rewards because I've been able to use it on so many things, like uh I have accumulated so many years. So people tell me like, how did you get that? Like I got my Xbox sneakers that were in the Microsoft store
Yeah, so
with
cool.
MS rewards. So I
That
was
is
like,
so cool.
I only ended up paying basically what $50 out of the
Yeah.
$150 that
Wow.
those sneakers were.
That's
So
great.
yeah,
Yeah, it's I love all the things that they do that are consumer based and thinking of the consumer, not just. I mean, obviously they're making their money and stuff, which is good. I want them to make their money if they're going to do things like this for us. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, we both have retail background.
mhm,
It's about choice and value and service, and I
yep,
think that you know, as consumers, as parents, stuff like that, I want to save
mhm,
money and I want to get the most for my money. So it's
yep,
always great when we're offered some of these great things that may come about, whether it's a subscription, whether it's hey, on a sale we buy a console, we get 3 games with it, or we get something with it. It's great because they're investments, and at the end of the day, we want to enjoy these things. So
yeah,
I think it's the best way is to make them cost effective and give different ways for people to come in and jump in how they want to play. I was talking to a friend of mine and they were just telling me how they have an Xbox, but their kids love playing on their phone through xCloud, through cloud
yeah,
gaming.
yeah,
And they're like, well, wouldn't you want a controller? And they're there playing with their touch controllers and going wild. And I was just like, okay. I was like, but again, another way to be able to interact with your games.
yep, yep. I got a backbone for mine because I'm not that good at
Yes. Oh my God. The
that.
backbone is the controller if you have an iOS device.
Yes. Yep.
So yes, I got one and it's just phenomenal. And I love also because I can share clips, I can record.
Yep.
The service is awesome because you get a year of the service for free.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah,
can't beat it.
I've been enjoying the backbone. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. I tell you just to circle back. Probably not a good word to use, but we've heard that it's coming. Even Phil has talked about that. He would like that Game Pass, someday maybe to be on TVs and maybe someday to be, some kind of like a streaming type stick, like a, and we know those things are probably in the works, but I'm just saying it from my side. We've heard that those things are probably in the works. That there may be a streaming stick, and something if somebody able to get like a streaming stick and a controller, for $100 or so, and then like be able to get into Game Pass and be able to enjoy. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be like Series X right in front of you type, but if it's playable and it's good quality, and you're able to enjoy it, and your kids are able to enjoy it, that's man, that's really bringing the threshold down from even $300 for the Series S. Bring it down to like $100 for access. Man, people are going to be all over that.
No,
I'm thinking.
that would be pretty cool. I mean, I side loaded the Xbox app to the Nvidia Shield.
Yeah, yeah, very cool.
So I think that would be awesome if they can make whether it's through an app on your TV, similar to what Nvidia has done,
Hmm.
or even like you were saying, like a little dongle piece, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
exactly.
and again, our infrastructure continues to improve. So
Hmm.
as cloud streaming continues to get better and more access in more areas, that would be awesome. That you just come in, pick up your controller, put in your TV, and that's it. Like you don't have to worry. And then you get, right now we're doing 1060, right? 1080p 60. One day to be like, hey, 4K 6, 4K 60, and you're just like there. That'll be awesome because at
It
the end of
will
the
be.
day, you know, it's the library like you have, like Netflix and everything, and
Hmm.
so forth, and just picking up that controller and playing. Yeah, that's the future we all dream of, right?
Exactly, exactly. And like you said, with the variety, having there's obviously we hope that maybe there's a revitalization of like banjo, and with their acquisition maybe
Oh
some of their
man,
other
banjo.
franchises that they could they could bring the
I
Crash
want
and
I
the
want Conquer.
Spyro. Conquer would be fantastic, exactly. And those kind of games that are not necessarily super high end, what, but I mean are just fun classic type style of gaming. I think it's still there. People love that stuff. It's why people still play Mario and things like that. It's like, it's
No,
great that they're all new and different ways in 3D and stuff, but they still play the original stuff too.
Nostalgia, that's one of
That's
the
it.
reasons I go to Nintendo, because you know what, they play on that nostalgia on me.
Yeah.
So it
Yep.
doesn't matter what people, the minute they show me something Mario or something from my childhood, I'm like, Nintendo, just take my credit card, please, and just let me know, when it's coming, because I'm all in it. Everybody's always like, what do I think what did I get? I got something this week on the Switch. It's
Mhm.
like, you play the Switch? Of course I do. I
Me
was
too.
like, it's funny because I know we love our consoles, right? 60 FPS is awesome, right? I play on PC. Yeah, of
Yep.
course. Especially if you play on PC, 120 frames, whatever, coming down to console, something like, okay, 60, that's awesome. But, uh, you know, at the end of the day, if I get a 30, steady 30, eh, to me, it's about the experience. I,
Right.
I, I know that it's not great. I think one of the games that I played at like 20 to 15 frames was called Deadly Premonitions Part 2.
Hmm.
It's a great game. It's a niche game. They have part 1
Right.
and part 2. Think of Twin Peaks meets Silent Hill. That's the best
Okay.
way to put
Cool.
it. Uh,
I like that.
and part 2, ah,
Yeah.
atrocious frame rate, but I love the game so much, and I love just the experience that I went through. And that's just me,
And
me
what's it called
personally.
again?
It's called Deadly Premonitions. Now, you don't have to buy it
Okay.
on Switch. You can get it really cheap on Xbox, on
Hmm.
PC.
Okay.
And it's a really cool game. They have part 1. Part 2, unfortunately, is exclusive to the Switch.
Right.
Uh, but I play all my games. I mean, I'm playing, No More Heroes. I replayed, I'm playing Dying Light 2. I
Cool.
replayed Dying Light on the Switch because I like the portability. And like I
Oh
said, that's
yeah.
the reason I want the Steam Deck, because as a parent, I don't have all the time sometimes to be in front of my TV.
Right.
And I just want to be lazy in my couch or in my bed or somewhere that's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
TV, and just have a console like experience.
Yep. Yep. I'm telling you, man. This at Steam Deck. I mean, probably the closest thing we'll get to a Microsoft handheld. You know,
Oh,
that would be great. But I mean, a Steam Deck. I mean, I'm gonna have obviously Steam catalog. Yeah, I've been. I don't know about you, but every week or 2 weeks, the Epic Store gives something free away. Well, I
oh,
go claim
I'm
all
there.
those. I got like 30 games claimed. Just haven't played any of them yet.
I mean, I know there's debates about stores. I know I don't want to have so many digital stores, but I'm used to it. I
Right.
mean, I subscribe to so many different things, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I if I can get games that I would normally I can save money on, I'm gonna be there
Yeah.
at that store. But yes,
Yep.
no, what I want to do with my Steam Deck is I want to dual boot it, so I can have the
Mm-hmm.
Steam OS and
Mm-hmm.
the Windows OS, and then I can put
Yep.
my Game Pass on there until they make hopefully a native Game Pass app, which I hope Phil makes. The team there do so.
He might be. I mean, him and Gabe pretty good friends, so you never know. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's pretty cool. Oh, well, Mr. Joanna Dark, dude, thank you so much for being here today. Whereas we start to wrap things up, we're not quite there yet. I do want to ask you one more question, which I kind of been asking everybody. Is a game that's or game or franchise that's coming out that's not available yet, but what are you most looking forward to in the future? Maybe something you've heard about. Obviously, something you've heard about, not something you've heard about in closed doors. I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying, but something that's that everybody would know about, that maybe that you are like most looking forward to.
Can I cheat and give you two?
You can give me two. Yes, almost everybody does that. So yes,
Okay,
that's funny.
so I am looking forward to uh Perfect Dark. Like I said, it's a franchise that resonates with
Huh?
me,
I never would have guessed
and
that.
but
Sorry.
Perfect Dark has me excited.
Oh
The
yeah.
the initiative, that Crystal Dynamics coming together to bring us back a reimagining of Joanna Dark. So that the second game I'm gonna have to say is Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga, excuse me.
Right. Yeah.
And
No. No. No.
it's because I love the original Hellblade. I own Hellblade on every system, even VR. I tell people to try it in VR.
Wow.
So those games have me excited, because I just feel that with what we've seen of Hellblade,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be kind of what we've been talking, right? I had my aha moment with Metal Gear. I had my aha moment with Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
and then of course Mario and so forth. And I
Mm-hmm.
just feel that Hellblade is going to give me that aha moment of like, wow, we've gotten this far in gaming where it's kind of a blend of like gameplay, cinematography, and just overall level of interaction, which is like, you know, we're just going to finally get this on all these next gen consoles. So that's what I'm excited for.
Awesome, awesome. I'm right there with you. I'm excited for that as well. Um, Even that little bit of gameplay that they showed, which then of course later everybody was like, well, they didn't show any gameplay. That was gameplay, and that's like, ooh, that's even more exciting. We don't see HUD. Well, maybe they're just not showing it now, but
I
if
mean,
that's
if you don't see when
yeah,
she's aiming, and the
right,
way the camera pivots, that's game, like that's a
yes,
game, dude. That's not some type of like CG or
mm-hmm,
choreographed. No, that's actual. Maybe you take away the HUDs if you in some games you can.
right, right.
Yeah.
But still, but that's man, that is going to be so on fire. I'm with you. I'm looking forward to it too. Now you got me excited for it again. Yay! Again, Mr. Joanna Dark, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's really has been an honor to have you here and to hear your story. And I hope everybody has enjoyed it as much as I have. Because, like I said, a lot of things you don't know about somebody until you ask or until you get to know them. And I'm really glad that we had this conversation. If you don't mind, um, let's maybe tell people where they can find you, because we really didn't even get into some of the shows and stuff you do, which we can talk about. That's fine. So let's talk about like
Yeah.
the shows that you do and where people can see you at. Would
Well,
be
first
great.
I want to say, David, thank you so much. For giving me the opportunity to come on here and kind of just tell my gaming origin story. It's really an honor, and I'm thank you that you kind of reached out to me. I saw some of the other people, the videos that you made, and those individuals are some of the people that I look I look up to, and I inspire to at least be somewhat as good as those people.
Well,
Uh,
you are, sir.
Thank you. Yes, if you guys want to just hang out and chat with me in the DMs or just on Twitter and talk to me, you can definitely find me on there under big_n_boss. That's big_n_boss.
Hmm.
I wasn't, I didn't know what else to kind of write when I did my Twitter thing. So I just said, hey,
Right,
you know
right.
what? I like Nintendo and I like Big Boss. So Big and Boss. That's why I got
There
it
you
there.
go.
And on Tuesdays, I am part of the Xbox. I'm one of the panel members of the Xbox Factor podcast on Double Barrel Gaming, of course, 10K Boom, with
Oh
the amazing
yes.
panel of Pong Soul, which is the I call him the Kevin Bacon of podcasting because he's just like everywhere. So
Yes.
you just come back,
10
and
degrees of pong, so that's funny.
yeah, exactly. Then of course, the awesome Boxenberger. Huge shout out. He's been very helpful. Great. Check his channel. He's amazing. And then of course, Fun Speculation, another great individual,
Hmm.
Mav,
Yep.
on there on Tuesdays. And then on Wednesdays, I'm on Xbox International along with my three brothers, Silent Cipher, Crazy Lou Gaming, Sour Blow Gaming. On the
Yeah.
on, of course, again, because they're gonna kill me on the Crazy Lou Gaming channel on YouTube because they always say I forget, but it's Xbox
You did.
International. We
You got it.
we
You got it.
we came together to kind of make something that's different. Even though we're Xbox centric, we welcome
Hmm.
everyone, and it's a show that we want to kind of just kind of like make it our own and might kind of diversify it. We had some amazing guests the past 2 weeks, and we hope to get some more down the road. And then, of course, with my good friends and colleagues, Jasmine and Albert, we record the Nickel Gaming podcast on Thursday. That's just three Microsoft employees coming together and just sharing our love for gaming,
Nice.
technology, and just talking about life. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. And I'll have all these in the show notes down below and listed on how people can find them easily with links. They'll be in there for people to find. So don't fret. You can definitely just go down the show notes and click right through and get right through all those and everything. So we make that as easy as possible. But you do a great job. I love your insight. I love your passion for gaming, and like I said, it's definitely been a pleasure to have you on here. Thank you
Yeah,
very
no.
much for coming on
Hey,
today, man.
yeah, thank you. No, like I said, I think we were talking in the back, there's a lot of great people in this industry. And, I looked
Hmm.
at the thing that said influencers and, I'm striving to be that, we still have great channels out there, great communities that are just doing, Colt Eastwood, Miles Dampier, Jazz Corden,
Hmm.
RDX and, you know, I can hope to continue to be good and bring my own kind of perspective to something that I've always wanted to do. And I finally
Hmm.
just, boom. I'm gonna say thank you to Boom
Yeah,
because he kind of gave me a voice on one of his big channels, but also a big thank you as well to my friend Albert, who kind of was the one that said, "Hey, let's make a show." And we started with the
nice.
Nickel Gaming Show, and then I reached out to Boom because he was on Xbox Chatter there real quick, and he
Yeah.
gave me opportunities. So now, it's great to just be here and be a voice, and hopefully a good voice for everyone.
Well, you are most definitely, definitely something to be proud of. And thanks again for being on. Thank you for everybody for tuning in to watching Outbreak Gamers, our continuous series that we're going to be having more and more gamers on here. There's lots of episodes and lots of episodes coming, and I tell you, each and every one of them is worth watching because there's some very fascinating people that are out there in the community playing games and just having a good time and living life, and that's kind of what we're all going through right now. So definitely, you can check us out at outbreakpodcast.com. That's the easiest way to find us because on that page you'll have all of our links to all our shows, all our gaming shows. Plus, we also do other. We have Escape Pod. We do other type of shows as well too. But if you're into gaming, you definitely want to continue to subscribe to this channel. And there we go. So we are definitely. Like I said, grateful for you to be on today, and thank you all for watching. And keep us in mind. We will definitely be bringing you more great content here on Outbreak Gamers.